Most sons don't say what they feel. Not because they don't feel deeply, but because somewhere along the way, they learned that saying it didn't change anything, or made things worse. This video isn't about blaming parents. It's about translating silence. Because if your son has grown quieter, if conversations feel shorter, if you feel him pulling away but don't understand why, there are things he wishes you knew. Things he may never say out loud, but they live inside him, and they shape the distance between you. Stay until the end. Because what sons wish most is often the opposite of what parents fear. Sons are not less emotional. They are less permitted to be emotional. From a young age, many boys learn, don't complain. Don't overreact. Handle it yourself. Be strong. Strength becomes silence. And silence becomes distance. Not intentionally, but slowly. And once distance forms, it becomes harder to cross. Especially with parents. Because parents represent expectation, evaluation, history. So instead of explaining, sons adapt. They reduce. They withdraw. They protect. Many parents assume silence means indifference. It rarely does. Distance is often protection. Protection from disappointment, conflict, feeling misunderstood, feeling like a problem. Some sons care so much that distance feels safer than failing you. They think, if I can't meet expectations, it's better not to engage. That doesn't mean love disappeared. It means fear entered. If your son is quiet, he may not be uncaring. He may be overwhelmed. Parents often step in quickly. Advice, solutions, perspective. But sometimes what sons need is not correction. It's containment. When every vulnerability is met with fixing, sons begin filtering what they share. They think, if I say I'm struggling, they'll think I'm incapable. So they stop reporting struggle. And parents think, he never tells us anything. But he learned not to. If you're watching this as a parent, ask yourself, when your son shares something difficult, do you respond with curiosity or direction? Silence here is intentional, because this is where awareness begins. Sometimes your son isn't silent because he's hiding something. He's silent because he doesn't have language. Many boys were never taught how to name emotions beyond fine, stressed, tired, angry. Underneath those simple words are complex layers. Shame, fear, inadequacy, loneliness, confusion. But if you were never given vocabulary, you can't suddenly perform it under pressure. So when parents ask, "Why are you acting like this? What's going on with you?" Just tell us how you feel. It can feel overwhelming. Because he doesn't know how. And not knowing how feels like failure. So he says nothing. Emotional conversations activate vulnerability. For many sons, vulnerability feels unsafe. Not because parents are unsafe, but because growing up, emotional expression often led to correction, minimizing, "You're overreacting," "You're fine," "Man up." Even subtle messages accumulate. So when an emotional conversation begins, his nervous system doesn't lean in. It braces. And bracing looks like short answers, irritation, deflection, withdrawal. But underneath it, there's often fear. This one is heavy. Many sons measure themselves against their parents' expectations, even when those expectations are never spoken directly. They hear things like, "We sacrificed so much for you. We just want what's best. You have so much potential." And those words, even when loving, can translate into pressure. Because sons often internalize one belief: if I struggle, I become a disappointment. And disappointment feels unbearable, especially when you love someone. So instead of risking failure in front of you, some sons pull away quietly. Distance protects them from seeing disappointment in your eyes, even if it was never there. Silence is sometimes self-protection, not rejection. Sometimes sons achieve everything expected: career, stability, independence. And yet, the emotional distance remains. Why? Because achievement doesn't equal intimacy. Many sons were praised for performance, discipline, responsibility, but rarely invited into emotional transparency, safe imperfection, being messy without consequence. So even successful sons can feel unseen. They think they're proud of what I do. But do they know who I am? And if they don't feel known, they don't feel fully connected. This one is subtle. Parents say, "I worry about you." What sons sometimes hear: "You're not capable." Especially adult sons. Worry can unintentionally communicate doubt, fragility, lack of confidence. And confidence is deeply tied to identity. So instead of saying, "That makes me feel small," he withdraws. Because explaining that would feel disrespectful. So he absorbs it quietly. Love expressed as fear can feel like control, even when that's not the intention. Many sons wish their parents understood this. Space is not abandonment. Distance is not disloyalty. Independence is not rejection. Sometimes sons step back not to sever the relationship, but to stabilize themselves. To breathe. To figure things out. To fail privately. The fear many sons carry is this: if I ask for space, will I lose you? So instead of asking, they just take it. And parents interpret that as coldness. But it may be self-regulation. When sons speak, they often sense when someone is waiting to correct, to reframe, to improve, to optimize. But listening without fixing is rare and deeply powerful. What many sons wish is simple: let me finish. Let me be imperfect in front of you, without being improved. Let my emotions exist, without being upgraded. Because safety isn't created by advice. It's created by presence. This may be the hardest truth. Distance doesn't erase attachment. Many sons still want connection. They just don't know how to bridge the gap without reopening old patterns. They fear being misunderstood again, being corrected again, feeling small again. So they wait. Sometimes for years. Waiting for something to feel different. Safer. Calmer. Less reactive. They don't know what that change looks like. They just know they're waiting for it. Silence can be waiting, not withdrawal. Most sons don't expect perfection. They don't need dramatic apologies. They don't need emotional speeches. What many secretly hope for is something quieter. Less correction. Less urgency. Less emotional escalation. More steadiness. More listening. More space to arrive as they are. They may never articulate this, but they are watching for it. They are watching for signals like, you didn't interrupt me this time. You didn't panic when I shared that. You didn't turn it into advice. You stayed calm. Those small moments register deeply. Safety isn't built through intensity. It's built through consistency. Reconnection doesn't begin when sons speak more. It begins when parents respond differently. The most powerful shift. Move from evaluation to curiosity. Instead of, why did you do that? Try, what was that like for you? Instead of, you should have. Try, do you want advice, or just someone to listen? Instead of, I worry about you. Try, I trust you to figure this out. I'm here if you need me. Those small shifts change the emotional temperature of a conversation. And temperature determines whether someone stays or shuts down. Most sons don't need new parents. They need safer versions of familiar ones. Many parents hesitate to apologize. Not because they lack humility, but because they fear it admits failure. In reality, specific apology builds respect. Not general statements like, I'm sorry if you felt that way. But clear ones like, I realize I corrected you a lot when you opened up. That might have made it harder to talk to me. That kind of ownership does something powerful. It lowers defenses. It communicates, I'm willing to examine myself. And when parents examine themselves, sons feel less examined. That's when dialogue becomes possible again. Trust does not rebuild through one conversation. It rebuilds through repeated experiences of safety. Consistency is what heals. One calm response doesn't fix everything. But 10 calm responses change expectations. Sons start testing the waters. They share something small. Watch your reaction. If the reaction is steady, they share a little more next time. Trust is incremental. Like muscle memory. It strengthens with repetition. When sons begin opening again, parents often feel relief. And that relief can become urgency. They may ask, "Why didn't you tell us sooner? Why did you shut us out?" But revisiting blame too quickly can close the door again. Reconnection is fragile at first. It needs patience. It needs emotional regulation. It needs restraint. The goal is not to process the past immediately. The goal is to stabilize the present. Healing moves at the speed of safety. Many sons were never taught that vulnerability is strength. They were taught that vulnerability is exposure. So when they finally open up, they are taking emotional risk. That risk deserves protection. Not analysis. Not correction. Protection. Because if vulnerability is met with safety, it becomes easier next time. If it's met with intensity, it disappears. Parents don't control whether sons feel vulnerable. But they absolutely influence whether vulnerability feels survivable. If there is one thing many sons wish their parents knew, it's this: I am trying in ways you cannot see. Trying to manage pressure, manage identity, manage fear, manage expectations, manage adulthood. Silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. Often, it means everything is happening internally. They wish parents knew that effort exists, even when words do not. Sometimes acknowledgement alone softens years of distance. If you're watching this with regret rising in your chest, pause. Awareness now is not failure. It's growth. You cannot redo the past, but you can reshape the next conversation. And sometimes, one changed pattern alters the entire trajectory of a relationship. It is rarely too late. Unless silence becomes pride. Humility repairs faster than perfection ever could. Most sons won't send you this video. Most sons won't say these words. But many are living them. If your son is quiet, don't assume you've lost him. Assume he's protecting something. Your role is not to force him open. Your role is to make openness safe. Less urgency. Less correction. More steadiness. More curiosity. More emotional room. Silence is not always distance. Sometimes it is waiting. Waiting for a safer way back. If you want to understand why sons begin withdrawing in the first place, watch the first video on this channel. If you want practical steps to rebuild trust, watch the reconnection video next. And if this video resonated, share it quietly with someone who needs it. Not to accuse, but to understand.